Let me explain. Back on July 11th, 2011, I had only been writing sports for a couple of years for a Nebraska site set up by a Texas site who were trying to get a Big 12 network going. The Texas site subsequently joined SB Nation and farmed a few of us out to their respective team sites. In my case, Corn Nation. Around 4 months into my new CN tenure, the Huskers officially joined up with the Big Ten as their 12th member. One of my favorite things about college sports is the hatred of other schools. Sports hatred. It's the kind of thing which can have you finding games all through a Saturday besides those involving the team you love. Is Navy pressing an upset bid against Notre Dame? Perfect. Colorado already down 21-0 to Oregon in the first quarter? Barkeep, ESPN2 if you please. Is Arch Manning flailing on the big stage again? Texas and ABC. Chop Shop. You get the picture. Now sports hatred should be fun, although twisting the knife is allowed, especially if there are misdeeds in the skeletal closet. But assaulting other teams' fans, or ancient trees, Alabama, or any actual in-person harassment is not. So, anyway, I thought it would be fun to take a swing at which of our new brethren which be most likely to make our blood boil in the new conference. Goodbye to Texas, Colorado, Kansas State, and Oklahoma. Hello to who? I won't reprint the whole thing here, but you can click on the title below for a reread. I often cringe when looking back on my older stuff for the simple reason I believe experience has gradually made me better. However, this holds up pretty well and it brought back memories of getting ready for a new era. And having some fun doing it. The premise was simple. Come up with a percentage ranking of the likelihood of conference rivalries spilling over into blood feuds. I called it the RPF or rage potential factor. I still like that, and here was my description of the highly scientific process used to reach a number for each from 1 to 100%. Do the team's antics make you long for an Al-Qaeda kidnapping scheme? Think Miami 80s, early 90s. Does the appearance of the coach's face on TV make you want to give him the Colin Quinn dick on treatment? And no, I'm not explaining what that treatment is. All I'll say is that there's no hidden meaning. Is the fanbase a collection of drunken, abusive chuck monkeys or insufferably arrogant snots? Notre Dame practically holds the patent on the latter. Any other intangibles deemed necessary? An odd state or region? Weird behavior from locals? I had a bad experience at a local Stuckey's. This is a grab bag. Like I said, you can click above for the original article where I threw in a few sentences about each team. Below is the final score I arrived at for everyone and the original final description. I'm simply going to take a look back and self-grade myself on each as low, high, or pretty close. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Minnesota, RPF, 3%, even their mascot is cute. In 2020's hindsight, this should have been much higher, but in my defense, how could I have foreseen the rise of PJ Fleck? His self-promotion and maniacal desire to forever be the center of attention combined with a 7-1 record against the Huskers since his hiring definitely turned up the heat. However, in personal dealings, Gopher folk are still as nice as ever. Trips to the Twins clad in red are still bad reactions free to this day. .in review. Low should have been greater than 3%, but most everything remains collegial. Purdue, RPF, 7%. If you feel compelled to hate Purdue, it's court-mandated anger management time. The 6-6 mark since joining the B1G is certainly annoying, but I think that's going to be the case for most, especially the post-Bo, 2011 to 2014, 22-10 Big Ten, only Husker coach with a winning conference record seasons. I've never really heard of any Boilermaker hate, and I'm especially proud of the anger management comment .in review. Spot on, a self-loathing only here, especially when considering they've been through 3 coaches since a 1-3 run began in 2021. For, if you count interim coach Brian Brome after Jeff left. Indiana, RPF, 12%. Yes, it's a stretch, but being sacrificed to he who walks behind the rose would suck. Quick explanation. I bumped the Hoosiers a little for 1, picking on the Cutters and breaking away, and 2, being a religiously maniacal state outside of urban areas where one would be much more likely to be dragged off into the corn by crazed little twits than Nebraska, where creepy stares are the highest threat level, not being burned alive or sacrificed to local burrowing demons. If we become top competitive again, perhaps it could leap, but currently, Cignetti's ascension may spark some jealousy, but I also think watching them take down Michigan and Ohio State brings joy to many. Or were some of you cheering for Miami a few months ago? In review, spot on, but, holy cow, not for the reasons I thought. Illinois, RPF, 24%. They could throw a big number on us potentially. Always rage-inducing. In 2011, Illinois had some offense. Juice Williams at QB had been succeeded by human border collie Nate Skilhass, and I offered this was a team who might light you up. But beyond that, everything seemed pretty chill with the folks from Champaign. But I did not see that destroyer of Arby's roast beef reserves slouching back to the Big Ten after his Razorbacks flameout. Burt has always pissed me off. Most recently in the 2024 loss, which had flopping Illini bouncing around like fish on the beach in receding tsunami tides. Faking injuries always makes me see red, as did Burt sending players late at Taylor Martinez in the 2012 Big Ten title game. And review. Way low, Burt rhymes with dirt, and that's where his morals lie. Northwestern RPF, 29%. Any excuse to travel to Chicago is a good one, right? At the time, I saw them as a threat, mostly out of respect for Pat Fitzgerald. That turned out to be credible, even if the respect ended up swirling down the drain for other reasons. The Wildcats turned out to be a pretty damned thrilling rivalry, with 11 of their 14 matchups since joining the conference being decided by one score. But it never seemed to get ugly. Yes, there's nothing like an icky sexual hazing scandal to piss people off, but honestly, in the creepy Big Ten, it may barely crack the top 5 in review. Pretty spot on. Northwestern Week has an shit, this one's gonna be close vibe as opposed to, I can't stand these guys. Michigan State RPF, 35%. Do cows talk trash or just chew cud? The cow talk is a nod to Michigan fans who like to mock their in-state rivals' agricultural roots in cattle and dairy research. As far as Nebraska, my memories of Spartan games are Taylor Martinez running wild for 205 yards and leading a late comeback victory 2012, the Black Shirts shutting down Kirk Cousins and holding MSU to 3 in 2011, and Jake Cotton falling on his ass for the funniest false start penalty in football history, leading Bo to say sometime you just gotta take a step back to in review. Hi, I can't really think of many negatives here, although hiring Fitzgerald after Mel Tucker's antics. Wow. But, though unrelated, I'll always remember Sparty's crowd sticking around to cheer for the Mavs in Uno 7-4 upset of Michigan in the 2001 CCHA hockey semifinals. Wisconsin RPF, 47% cheese, Wisconsin's other white meat. The Huskers are 2-11 versus the Badgers in their B1G tenure. Burt coached Wisconsin for the beginning of that stretch. Those 11 wins have come with several embarrassing blowouts, the 70-31 2012 Big Ten title game and Melvin Gordon's NCAA record, for about 2 weeks, 408 yards rushing. All come to mind. And whiskey fans have not been the least bit shy in their shit-talking about the dominance. The Husker faithful were very happy about clinching bowl eligibility after a 10-year hiatus in a blowout of the stinkin' Badgers in 2024. And little E. Sean Eichhorst's 80 hire in Madison seems like a gift to Nebraska, almost too good to be true. In review. Low. Way too low. I think I covered it. Ohio State RPF, 59%. What are you looking at? Voted number 1 Columbus greeting in 2007. The 1-8 record against the Bucknuts is unsurprising, as is Mike Riley's squad lowering their trousers for a combined 118-17 score in his 2 efforts. Bo snagged the only victory in a split. And Scott Frost and Matt Rule each have close games in which they wish they could have a redo, 2 for Frost and 1 for Rule in his only try. Animosity? Not so much, and the 2 athletic departments have actually backed each other on a few spicy issues. In review. Probably too high. Although it's also in the category of could change if Nebraska rises. Just check out Buckeye fans' online reactions after losing the 2025 Big Ten title game. Penn State, RPF, 78%. Pennsylvania Mountain Country. Deliverance-style creepiness, but farther north. I had already developed a solid dislike for Joe Pa and the Penn State crowd before joining the Big Ten. Then, barely 4 months later, the scandal by which all Big Ten misbehavior is judged broke open, as well as the fact that their cult leader not only knew about it but actively covered it up for decades. Did it slow down their shrieking not to fire him, or at least let them put his statue back up? Nah, that talk has died down, but I still get the urge to shower when I hear the school's name. Also, screw them forever for this. In review, low. 78% was too low even before Sandusky entered the chat. A 4-2 mark against the Nittanies since becoming conference members, and designated rivals for a bit, doesn't ease it off much. Michigan RPF. 93%. Please don't let Musburger call these games. Please. Brent Musburger's love of the Wolverines was even more undisguised than his hatred of the Huskers, which probably bumped the number a bit in 2011. Since joining, the Huskers won 2 of the first 3, before dropping the last 5 with 3 being blowouts and 2 others being decided by a field goal. I like to say Notre Dame is the most entitled football program, North Carolina is the most entitled basketball program, and Michigan is just the most entitled. That being said, I may have overshot a little here. Although them burying their heads in the sand over the cheating scandal until the belt lines hit ground reminded everyone just how insufferable they can be. In review. High, but not by much. Besides Connor Stallions, they also had Robert Anderson. Read about this creep on your own time. Iowa RPF. 97%. Be sure to remind the Iowegians that they named their stadium after a Nebraskan. In review, low. I only gave 97% and the limit was 100.